How you
Good.
doing? Did you were you able to look at that deal that you were messaging me about?
Oh yeah, I looked at it. And I
Okay.
got lost in it. I was just watching the video and trying to do it, and I just got lost. And I'm like,
Okay.
um, and then I'm trying to talk to you through the video, and you just don't answer back. So it's over there.
Fair. Yeah, I do a bad habit not responding when it's a video. That's true. That's fair enough. Yeah. Okay. Well, what about 1 o'clock? We jump on a call if you're able to, or which day look like? We can.
Oh, I can. It'll work out better. I'm by myself today. My office mate's not here, so it'll be fine.
Okay, cool. Let's chat like around one-ish.
Okay.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. We'll give a few more minutes. Wait for people to jump in. But send me the address too of the places. I don't, or did you already send that to me? I don't remember.
I don't think I have.
Okay.
The one I've been working on is the homeowner one. The other one is a realtor. She took it off of marketplace today, so I'm not sure if that's still a viable one, but
Hmm.
um, I can. I found it in her. She's a is a realtor, and I found it in the realtor spot too. So in the realtor company it's for. So I'm not sure if it's been pulled from there too. If they got an offer on it or something, I don't know.
Yeah.
But she didn't respond to my last question when I asked. I talked to her. I just basically told her that I'm really interested in buying the house and that I'll make her the best. I'll go over things enough to make the best deal. And if I buy it, then I'm going to buy it through her so that she
Hmm.
doesn't lose her commission. But she never
Right.
responded to that.
Got it.
So,
Yeah. Some agents are interesting. A lot of them are really good ones, and there's some others like what are you doing? That's the only question I can ask.
well, Jason had posted out somewhere about, if you want to talk to realtors and stuff, asking these questions, and that's where I started on both of them, and they both about
Hmm.
have three or three, not even two questions in, and they both kind of clammed up and like, why are you
Hmm.
asking all this stuff? And I asked him at the beginning, can I ask you a bunch of questions? And it's just about the
Yeah.
house and stuff like that.
Which it's pretty
And
standard. I mean, it's just a question
yeah,
about the house, especially.
right. And then all of a sudden, it's like they both kind of question what I was doing, and I'm like, all right, fine, I'll tell you, I'm an investor, and
Hmm.
this is what I'm doing, and I got the answer from the one, the realtor. She goes, well, I'm looking for an end buyer. And the other one said, I am um, not interested in doing an investor. I just want somebody to buy my house. But I've actually got a better relationship with her now. But
So they said that they're not interested in working with investors, want someone to buy the house.
yeah,
And
she just wants somebody to buy the house, but she's not looking at trying to get somebody to like an investor to do like buy for a
so
fund
so
or
the response to
whatever.
that is like uh investors buy houses.
Well,
That would
I
be
just
the
told.
and it's just through text message or you guys on the phone.
Yeah, it was just text message back and forth with both of them. I just finally told her. I said, no. I said, I'm really interested in buying your house right now. I'm trying to put a offer together for you that will help both of us come out on the top. So
Mhm.
that's where I'm
Okay.
at right now. So
That
she
seems
knows
fair.
I'm working on something.
Okay. No, that's good. It's interesting that they say things like that. Okay, yeah, no worries.
She
It's
really asked me. She really asked me, "Are you really interested in buying my house?" I'm like, "Yes." And I had to tell her, I am not a realtor. I think that was her biggest thing. She thought I was a realtor. I'm like, I'm not a realtor.
oh yeah, that could be it. Okay, now that okay, sure, but yeah, that's an interesting response as far as like, oh, we want someone to buy the house. We don't want to work with an investor. Like, well, what do you think investors do? Like, does
Yeah,
that make any sense?
we buy houses. But then I thought after I listened to the video yesterday, if she comes back with anything about even on the realtor one, to tell them, I've got somebody who's interested in it, they're just gonna buy it. They're going to be the end buyer, not something you said in your video.
Right. Well, even if it's like with agents, I mean, you definitely want to be, upfront with them, and but I would. Hmm, agents are very interesting too.
Yeah, they are.
Um, like again, some are phenomenal. Others you can give them the world, and it's just like, and not to knock them by any means, but they are going off of what they know, and they don't know what they don't know. And the same thing as us. Like I don't know everything. There's plenty of things that I don't know, so I can
Right.
see why it's got to give it some or take their comments with a grain of salt and things like that. And
Oh yeah.
Okay, cool. So, um, phenomenal. Today, so after today, I want us to on Wednesdays we're gonna do like MMAs. Where we're gonna be like making phone calls. We're gonna be doing things like that. Um, but today I wanted to get a little of the basic information down. That's kind of what this first week is getting the basics down of what we were doing and the processes and the key things like yesterday's sacred time. I think that was helpful. Those who most of you guys were on that are here, they were on yesterday. But what I want to talk about is and answer questions on the wholesaling process in general. So even if you're thinking like, yeah, I mean, I want to find a deal, then I want to flip it, cool. But it's also good to know the whole process from start to finish, what exactly has to happen to do an actual wholesale transaction. Does that sound like something that would be helpful, guys? If we go into some detail, yeah, just give me a thumbs up. Good, good, perfect.
Yes, it'll be really good.
Okay, so the whole process, just in general. Let me get a little whiteboard here. I'm going to use my pin. My pin is sometimes good, so we'll see how well my drawing's going to be because I'm going to do the whiteboard thing. Whiteboard, boom. Okay, could you guys see the screen? I guess, or a white screen, dots and things. Yeah. Okay. Sweet. So I'm just gonna go over like the basics, and for some of you guys, this is very basic, but that's okay, right? I mean, there's gonna be questions that comes up, and there's some things we're gonna talk about that even if it's like, yeah, like I know this, Jared, but this is good for everyone to see and hear, and I want you guys to participate and ask many questions that come up that you may have, because I'm sure someone else is gonna have the same questions if you're having too. Okay. All right. So the wholesale process, just in general, right? So we have someone that needs to sell their house. Okay. And that could be, then we talk about lead generation, all that stuff. So could be anyone, could be anyone someone that's maybe going through foreclosure, bankruptcy, divorce, or even someone that just wants to sell their house without doing the whole hassle. Let me ask you guys, who here has ever sold their car at a dealership? And Laura, she's a little biased, but who here has ever sold your car to a dealership? Put in the comments, put in, say here, or at least know someone that has. Now, actually, let me get Laura if you can talk, because Laura works at a car dealership. Laura,
Yeah, I'm here.
can you tell me about trade-ins? Do you guys offer when someone comes in with a card for trade-in? I don't know if you know or not, but you guys are not offering like top dollar. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, we don't offer top dollar. They go through a little process. They go, they look at any damage on it. They look at
Mm-hmm.
the miles on it. They look at the tires, the windshield, and then they base that on market, not necessarily market value, but they look at two or three different spots. They look at JD, what's it called, JD something, and then they look at
Mm-hmm.
what the market's saying, and then they look at another spot that they look and they put those all together and decide, okay, this is what we can offer you, so that you make the best money as well as we make the money when we go and resell it.
Right. So the dealership, they buy it necessarily top dollar. They minus whatever needs to happen if there's dent in it. Okay, so that's going to reduce the price. So the condition does matter. And the people that do the trade in, are they expecting? Do they feel like that's the best way to sell their car, or maybe not the best way, but that's the best way to get the most money out of the car? Does anybody think that when they throw in when they do a trade in?
Some of them do. Some of them figure that we owe more money than what the value of the car is. As I've always been told, they said you can't always, you have to compare apples to apples, so maybe if one dealership offers this one car for
Hmm.
more money than we're willing to give it to them, then obviously they're not going to make a deal. A lot
Right.
of people, there's people who say, "Oh, I can make more money on my own."
Yeah.
One of the things that the owner always says is you have to realize that they are losing money because they have to pay the sales tax.
Hmm.
So sell it through us because then they actually make more money because they save that option.
Okay. I got it. But I think it's fair to say that most people feel like if they took that same car and sold it out. They'd probably get them. They'd probably get a little bit more than potentially.
They
I mean,
can,
sure, there's a
yes.
sales tax, but there's not always they put in the next price that they sold it for or whatnot. Not saying that this should or no one would, but the point I'm trying to make is people sell. Why would they sell if they know they're not going to be able to get top dollar, like absolutely the max amount they possibly can get? I'm not talking about sales tax. I'm not talking about anything like their the sales value. Okay, why would they sell it through a dealership instead of just throw it on Facebook Marketplace or whatever? Why would they do that?
Less hassle.
Less
Less,
hassle. Okay.
less hassle. They can trust the dealership to give them the best value they can get for it. Um,
Hmm.
or they can, most of our trades come in on somebody purchasing, so they make more money that way because they can use it towards their next vehicle too.
Sure, sure. Well, they get the credit for it, right? That's
Right.
for the next vehicle. But they could easily go and sell the vehicle, not easily, but they can go and sell the vehicle, get more for it, and then use that money for the purchase as well, right? But like you said, most of us have either done it or know a lot of people that have sold their car through a dealership, right? So we have iPhone 11, whoever that is, right? To sell faster. Exactly. It's to sell it quickly. Maybe they don't want to deal with the hassle, like Laura said a minute ago, like that because it is a hassle because you got to let people do a test drive and then to try to wheel and deal you and you got to make sure that you understand the pricing and that the value is correct. And so it's a lot of headaches and maybe we don't have time for that. Maybe we have jobs. Maybe you're about to move. You're doing a number of things where you're not able to um, do all those things that you need to do, right? To sell the car. So a lot of it's timing. Selling a home on their own takes away more time and effort, which is a lot of people don't have. Exactly, right? So there's a just because someone's selling it as a quote unquote discount as far as the house goes doesn't mean that they're being taken advantage of. If that makes sense, right? Because um, they most of the time when I'm doing a deal with someone, they understand that they're if they had the time or if they're in different situations, they probably could throw in the market wait the because when and sometimes I paint this out for a lot of the sellers. Like when they're talking about like if you give them offers and it's just too low for them, they want a lot more money for it, and there's a time frame on it. Sometimes I'll walk them through the time frame of actually of them selling the property. So and I always use like stories and like when I was an agent, we would put it on the market, and it would take depending on whatever the days in the market average is, even on hot markets, it can take a week or two. You're not going to accept the first offer. It's going to take like 2 to 3 weeks, maybe 30 days to actually get an offer accepted. But if you're selling the regular market, they're not usually cash offers, and so then this can take anywhere from 30 to 45 days just for their loan approval process, all of the inspections, all of that hassle, to only hopefully it closes by then. Because if their house is any type of disarray, if there's any type of problems, that can affect with their financing, which is another reason why a lot of agents won't even touch houses that need some love. And so if that's the case, if it falls through, they don't close like they thought they would, but they couldn't for whatever reason. Um, Now you're at square one. Now you have to throw it back on the market and hope someone get because and the thing is the longer that this takes, the harder it is to find that buyer because if we see something that's on the market for a while, what's our first thought? If a house has been on the market for a lot longer than other houses, like, oh well, what's the problem here? Why is this still in the market? And so then people are less skeptical, so less people put in offers, even though just the buyer just fell through, right? So kind of explaining that to the sellers helps a lot if they have a time frame. And you're not saying this is going to happen to them, but you can say like I know people that, and I'm sure you guys heard stories just in general, like where you don't have to be an agent to know these things. I've heard plenty of times where they throw in the market and then they have to wait, and so there's no guarantee it's going to sell at a certain time where we're offering quick and easy. So long story short, um, people sell at a discount for good reasons. They sell at a discount for the same reasons, for a lot of the same reasons that we sell at a dealership. Our cars at a dealership, convenient, it's fast. I'm going to worry about any of the hassle. I know like Jared's giving me this price. I know I'm going to get at the price, and that's that. When I'm in and out, 2 weeks done. I don't got to wait the 45. I don't have to wait 2 to 3 months to sell the property. I'm happy. Okay. So the wholesale process, and feel free to jump in with questions or comments, guys. Appreciate it, right? So we have a seller. me zoom in. Okay, so we got the seller here. Now the seller has some sort of need to sell her properly and typically quickly. And so what we do as wholesalers, let's see here, add Tim. Thank you. Okay. So us as the wholesaler, that's the wholesaler, the SW, right? So what we do, we come in, find the person that needs to sell their house quickly, which is through the lead process, which we kind of go in that there's the, finding the off market deals. So we have, and we give them an offer, and it's going to be in the REPC, real estate purchase contract, REPC. And this contract says that we are buying it, or company's buying it at a certain price, at a certain time. That's a clock. And that we are, so those are the basic elements of the contract, okay? Right? So price, time, all that stuff. Cool. Now I go and I find, let's just say, Caden. Let's say Caden's over here. He's a flipper. I can make this strong, right? We're talking different ways of doing this process, right? So now we have the flipper, or maybe someone that we're looking for buy and hold, okay? So this flipper, what are they doing? This flipper, I go to my flippers and I say, hey, Caden, I got this awesome contract right here to purchase this property. I will sell you my rights to this contract for a fee. Let's say we're gonna do round numbers, okay? So at closing, you gotta pay me $10,000, and then I'll sign my rights to the contract to you. So we are not selling properties. It's very important that you're not saying you're selling a property. You're not, even in your marketing, you're not selling the property. You're not representing the seller. You just have a contract to purchase this property, and you're selling your rights to purchase this contract to someone else. That's it. So be very, very clear, because this is how you get into hot water. All right. Does that make sense? I want to make sure everyone's clear about that. So now that I have a contract reps with the seller, and now I have a flipper that, like, dude, this deal's awesome. I like it. Seems great. Let's do this. And so we have a separate contract between wholesale and the flipper. And this is an assignment contract, agreement, contract, whatever. Sure. There's just not says ask. So the assignment man, this is not writing at all. Anyways, it's supposed to say contract. Whatever. Okay. So now we have assignment contract. Basically says that me as a wholesaler, I have a reps, I have a purchase contract to buy this property at this time for this price, and I'm going to sell my rights to that contract for 10K. So basically, if I'm buying this property for, let's say, 300,000, the flippers, he's just factoring and he's buying the property at 310. And so at closing, I get the 300. Well, we're not there quite yet. Hang on a second. Does that make sense so far? Any questions about the process, about this part, any of the steps here? Okay. All right. Next step. What do we do? Now we have a REPC. We have an assignment to the contract. What do we do? So there's something, title companies. Love title companies, the good ones. So title companies. So title companies, here's what I do. I send them an email with the copies of the signed agreements. And I say, hey, Christina, I got another one. Here's the address. And oh my gosh, this is not writing at all. Anyways, here's the address. Here's the purchase contract, the REPC. Here's the assignment contract. Any addendums? But you guys get what I'm saying, right? I hope, even though this is not writing very well. Here's all the information. Great. Let me know if you need help, or let me know if you need anything else, right? And they'll come back and say, yes, dude, we need this, this, and this. We need this addendum, whatever. And then you know, talk to the flipper, talk to the seller, whatever you need. As far as the seller's concerned, he's everything as far as the rep sees not changed. So nothing has changed for the seller, because they're going to sell their house for 300,000, and at the price and the time that we agreed beforehand. The only thing that really is changing is the name on top of the paperwork. It's instead of having it saying my wholesaling company, it's going to say the flipper's company. So that's like the only thing that's really changing for the seller. And I have never even had anyone even mention anything like, oh, it's different. That's a different business name. I mean, like, who looks at that? So never 100 plus 150 transactions, and never had anyone even remotely talk about that. Okay. Now, with the title company, you make sure you want to have title companies that are very wholesaler friendly. And I talk a little bit in the classes about getting a really good title company. But so there's a couple suggestions, or there's a couple companies here in Utah. I'm going to throw out there for you guys. So we have um, GT Title. And for those that are out of state, I'm gonna give you some questions too. And maybe you don't want to use GT Title, you want to use some other company or whatever, right? Or these are my favorites, or REI Title. Transactions, amount of dollar amount monies that these two ladies have saved me. Okay. But let's just say you don't have, or you want to use a different company or whatever. When you're finding a title company, and depending on the state, maybe it's a real estate attorney, depending if they use title companies or they have to use attorneys. That's just depends on the state. But it's the same basic concept. The title companies, they need to understand and know how to wholesale and how to do it correctly. Because if you're especially if it's like your first couple, you want to make sure that they can catch anything that you may miss, and they can teach along the way too, if there's something that they need as the paperwork goes or whatever, that understands the whole process. Because working with people that it's just kind of like, yeah, I guess we can figure something out. So some of the questions I like to ask, the same questions I asked with agents. One of the questions, like, if I'm looking for a title company, I'll call title companies, just Google it, and I'll ask, like, hey, do you guys work with investors? Very often. How often do you guys work with investors? Do you like working with investors? That's a huge thing. Do you guys work with wholesalers, and do you like working with wholesalers? If the responses to any of those questions are like, yeah, we've done we work with investors, we've done a few wholesales. That last year we did a couple. um that For me, that's like, okay, cool, next. That's a next. Because I want someone like, yeah, we just did 3 wholesale deals last week. I want that response. Or like, yeah, I love working with wholesalers. They always send me deals. It's great. They're always like, I'm getting deals. They're sending me stuff every couple of weeks. It's phenomenal. Those are the title companies you want to deal with, because they're doing it. They're putting the reps in, and they actually like it. Because if there's someone that's doing something just because it's like, all right, they need the commission and they're doing it, they're not going to give you the best effort. Let's be real. Or maybe they are giving the best effort, but they're not. They just don't know what they don't know, and that's okay. We all got to start somewhere, right? So if they don't know what they don't know, that could hurt you. So that's why you want to have people that actually are very adept of wholesaling and investing just in general. What question you guys have about title companies? Because this is important. I want you guys. You really have to. You want to work with. This is true for any industry that we work with. You want to work with people that actually know what they're doing. So I want you guys to understand this part. It's important. Does anybody have any questions about like the title company, or how to find a good one, or you know, it's good to know it, because even if GT title or RI title, whatever, maybe, who knows. There's a lot of scenarios where um, sometimes the buyer, maybe their investor, and they don't like to work with.
Yeah.
In your tool belt, you're going to be pretty good, or in your Rolodex, I should say.
Hey Jared,
Yes.
what when you say like, you want a title company that like knows what to look for,
Hmm.
um, and what kind of potential issues like could you run into with a wholesale? Because
Sure.
obviously like
Ton-
at the surface it's pretty straightforward, but obviously,
yes.
with real estate in general, there's a lot of unknowns and fine
Great
print
question.
stuff like that. What are some of the kinds of things that like you've run into that like a good title company would catch?
Yeah. Um, One, like when they're the assignment, or let me back up. So yeah, that's a great question because it is, the concept is very simple. This whole thing, 100%, but no, having them catch things that, and most of the stuff is going to be pretty basic, right? So there's not much they have to catch, but when there is something to catch, you want them to catch it. So for example, making sure that everything is done correctly as far as the assignment, because here in Utah, it's very, what we're looking for there. The Utah laws just in general for wholesaling and things like that are very not wholesaler friendly. We're one of the states that makes it a lot more difficult to do not well. They throw more challenges to wholesale than honestly most states. I don't think we're like the worst state by any means to wholesale, but we are probably in the top 10 as far as the difficulty, as far as the laws and ordinances. So you need to make sure that like if you're using my assignment agreement, like that's totally fine. But if you're using a different one, or if it's phrased a little different depending on the reps you are using. So for example, if you're using like a traditional, and this is if you're a real estate agent, you kind of have to use most of the time these type of contracts. But the Utah Repsy contract on section, I want to say 19, it's like 19 or anyways, it says this contract is non-assignable, meaning that you can't assign it. Another thing that you want that they can also catch, what I see a lot of people do is that they'll put in under the name of the person buying, they'll say, so like my company, so we'll put Jared Brenchley, we'll just use first name, or assignee, uh assignee in that's supposed to be a name, whatever. So some title companies are fine to doing something like that, like having that assignable, but that does not change the contract for being assignable. It's not, just putting assignee will not hold up in court. So if for whatever reason the seller flipper wants to take you to court for God knows whatever, that assignee little agreement or not agreement, that little thing you put in there, like your name and then plus or assignee, won't hold up in court. So small stuff like that where we hear and we see people doing, and they're closing on deals like that. But the thing is, if anything push comes to shove, if there's any type of disagreement or whatever, it's not going to hold up. And so you want title companies to tell you, like, yeah, no, this actually won't work if push comes to shove. So we're not going to do this assignment unless you, or this deal, until you have another addendum saying so. So making sure you have the right addendums, making sure, especially if you're doing seller financing, creative financing, they're going to catch a lot of those. It's all in the paperwork, right? So as far as like what's on the title, things like that, that's pretty basic. Most title companies will catch that stuff, but just stuff like that, as far as like the assignment agreement and making sure that that contract is legally transferable. And if it's not, what kind of addendum do you need to make sure that that happens? Does that make sense? So small things like that, and depending how complex the deal is, if you negotiated like a wraparound mortgage, things like that, there's so many things, if everything's not done exactly how it needs to, that you can be, put down a huge down payment and then everything's like just gone, it's trash, everything's just not going to work anymore. Does that make sense? So small things like that's gonna be the biggest thing. um another thing is like so this is assignment. This is assigning the contract over to the seller. Okay. Or did that answer your question, Josh? I want to make sure that,
Yeah, no, it did. Thank
okay,
you.
good.
Makes
And those are
sense.
just a small couple examples of things that the title company potentially can catch or
For
tell you
sure.
or give you some more information. You need to fill an addendum saying this, and this. So when I'm doing subject to, I now put in my clauses that they're about the due on sell clause, that the seller understands that is a potential risk, and that they're okay with that. And then, because we have our stuff that kind of help prevent a lot of that stuff, but just them acknowledging that that's there is keeps it out of the hot water when push comes to shove.
Right.
Right?
So if you can do an addendum, because obviously, like I know, like the state repsy, it says like non-assignable.
Yeah.
But can you do an addendum to
Yep.
change that? That just says,
100%.
hey, this is assignable, and you just have them sign that.
Yep. So if it's a Utah repsy, there's an addendum that it's a change of interest. It's a what is it? Change of interest addendum. And basically what that is, it's something that the seller has to sign, you sign, and also the flipper has to sign. So all
Gotcha.
three of you are signing it, and it does show what your wholesale fee is. Okay, so when I was an agent and I was still wholesaling for those couple of years, I used that addendum for my assignment. And honestly, it's I never had any issues with the seller knowing how much I was making, with the flipper was knowing how much I was making. Zero problems like that at all. So like,
Right.
and it's all about the prepping and priming people, priming so they understand what potentially might happen, what to expect. So they're not like, last thing you want is anyone to be blindsided with something, because that's when they get like, wait a minute, hey, I didn't know about this stuff. I don't know if I feel comfortable anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. Um, you want to make sure that they're totally fine. So for example, so when for those that want to use something like that, or my bad. Like the contract I use now, the reps I use now is assignable. So I don't even have to have the seller's permission to assign that contract over to the flipper. But if I'm using like the regular Utah reps, or like if I was an agent, and some of us in this call are, then you would have to use the transfer interest addendum. But what I tell the seller is this: I said, "Hey, Mr. Seller, so as I'm like as we're getting things kind of agreed, we have the verbal agreement, everything's good. I let him know, like, so we're able to buy this property pretty quick, and there's a chance that I end up that I don't have the $300,000 in my back pocket to purchase this property. So how I and a lot of other investors like me, what we do, we use partners. We have there's, without getting too much in the details, but we use partners that come in with us. They have a pile of money. They want to see it grow, so they'll invest in my deal and things like that. So I'll need access to the property for one, to let my partners come in and also get my contractors in. So now that little phrase, or that little making sure they understand that part, it's gonna be easier for you to get your potential buyers into the property, because a buyer is a partner, pure and simple. You're signing an agreement with them, it's a partnership. Okay. So you're gonna get access to the property. You can if it's vacant, I usually just get a lockbox. I usually tell the seller, hey, Mr. Seller, because my partner, I don't know what partner is going to partner with me on this one, so I'm going to need I'm going to need access to the property. If it's vacant, I'm just going to need to get a key, and I'm going to have my lockbox in it. If they live there, then like I'm going to have like a couple of my partners come in on Saturday at from 11 to 12, and so I'm just going to access the property during that time, and maybe a couple times just here and there before we actually close. Does that sound fair enough? And I don't think I've ever had any. There's been like logistic challenges with that, like just because maybe they're stuck in bed or something like that. They're sick and they can't really move. It's hard for them to get out, whatever. So maybe they have to be there when the buyers come in, or a number of things, right? So other than logistic challenges, I never had anyone really push back really on getting access to the property, because that's pretty standard for any type of purchase. If I'm buying the property for myself as a rental, or for just my house I live in, there's going to be inspections. There's going to be people walking through. That's kind of like a duh thing. I mean, most people they're not surprised about that. Then when I find the buyer, what I'll talk to the seller, say, okay, hey, Mr. Seller, I have some good news. Like I'm have to use the change of interest form. Remember I told you that I work with a lot of buyers and that they or excuse me, I work with partners, and then they came in, they looked at it. I have this buyer, Josh. He absolutely he came on Saturday when we were able to come in. He looked at it. He loved this so much. He wanted to buy me out of this deal. So basically, just so you know, nothing changes for you. You're still we're still going to give you the same price. We're not asking for any discounts or anything like that at all. We're still going to close next week on Wednesday, no problem. I He's just buying me out, so basically, it's just going to change the name on top of the form. So we just got to sign this addendum. Just let you know that instead of having Challenge Solver, my company's name, it's going to be Josh Incorporated. Its name on it. That's it. Oh, okay, that's fine. And so again, just like that, as simple as that is, like that's I've never had like zero challenges with that. I think if I didn't like talk about like, hey, when my partners are coming in, they're I don't know which partner. If I didn't like prime them, I think it would be for some people maybe they're like, well, what are you talking about? And throughout this whole process, if they were like, oh, so are you like wholesaling it? Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I'm doing. If they if they ask like, oh yeah, 100%, that's what I'm doing. Um, I don't hide anything because I'm telling them everything that we're doing. I just don't volunteer information because if if they if I say yeah I'm wholesaling this deal, I'm gonna sign this, I'm gonna be I'm a wholesaler. I don't usually tell the seller up front right away because what do they do if they don't understand the whole process? They don't know what a wholesaler really is. They don't if they haven't any they have no idea. What do? They'll usually Google it or they'll talk to their broke uncle. What is broke uncle going to say? Or can we control what the Google machine's going to say? Any thoughts? What do you think? I'm gonna insist on participation here.
Wholesale bad. They're gonna cheat you out of money.
Exactly. Wholesale bad. They're going to scam you. They're going to whatever dumb thing that they're going to say or that's in their mind, right? And maybe not dumb is a little harsh. Again, people don't know what they don't know. So let's give them some grace, to say the least. Okay. So and that's okay, right there. But that's hang on. Maybe did I make sure am I recording this? I think I am.
Jared, when I got on, it said there was a recording in
Oh, it
process.
did? Okay, good. Got it. Thank you. Appreciate that. I just want to make sure I've had too many, not too many, enough. We had one that was really cool. Like I negotiated, like we called the seller and it was we had like 30 people on. I negotiated a seller financing, no down payment, 3.5% deal, interest rate, and it so happened to be the one time I didn't hit record or didn't record automatically. So yeah, so I'm a little paranoid since that happened because that would have been such a good call just to show people like, hey, check this out, it's awesome. Because getting no down payment, that's a rarity. Anyways, okay, back to what we're saying. Um, yeah, I just don't want them to again, this is the same reason why when I'm talking about seller financing, some of you have heard me, I never say seller and financing together when I'm pitching a seller financing deal. Because what are they gonna do? They're gonna start Googling, they're gonna talk to the broke uncle, and then they're gonna everything that has ever happened negative is gonna pop up, and then they're, oh, I don't want to do that. I don't know. I don't want to do that. And the broke uncle is gonna tell them this is a terrible idea. It's really, really risky. Or they're one agent friend that has never done a seller financing deal, and all they know about seller financing is what the broker says, and the broker says, don't do it, it's illegal, when it's absolutely not illegal. I mean, well, if it's done correctly, it can be done. It can be anything can be done, it can be made illegal if you're doing it incorrectly. But yeah, but you guys get my point, right? So I explain what we're doing versus like giving a name. If they like, is that wholesaling? Like, oh, is this seller financing? Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. That's what we're doing. Oh, okay, cool. right? So now that I primed it, so they understand. So if I have to use a Utah Repsy, then the right forms. If all three have to sign, like myself, the buyer, the wholesaler, the seller, the buyer, cool, no problem. Worst case scenario, if let's just say that the seller, like, you know what, I'm not going to sign that addendum. I don't want you to wholesale this. My uncle told me this is a bad idea. Okay, cool, no problem. Well, we still have a contract. We'll close on it as normal. No worries. Because we still have the Repsy, we still have the contract with them. So if they throw a fit, they don't want you to wholesale it or nothing at all. There's something called a double close. Who can tell me what a double close is?
Is that when you like close? You close first with the buyer, with the seller, and then you immediately like close. Like, yeah, you immediately close with like whoever the new buyer is, and like, is there a time frame that has to be like between those, like
So,
hours?
so for example, this is not writing very good. I could draw pictures with my pen, but first it's not. Anyways, okay. So double close, yeah, exactly right. So we have the Repsy right here, right? So we have the seller, he wants to do it, cool. I take my Repsy to the title company, and we're gonna do double close, and the buyers can do it. And this is one I would do a double close if um the seller's like throwing a fit, doesn't want to assign an addendum to transfer the contract to someone else, whatever. Like they get some idea, like, you're making money in this deal, you must be evil, or whatever weird idea they're getting, right? Um, or I'm not super keen on letting my buyer know how much money I'm making. Maybe it's like a killer deal. Like there's I mean, I know wholesalers that made like $100,000 on their deal on as a wholesale fee. So let's just say you negotiate a freaking killer deal, right? It's 200,000 on a deal, and then I got Josh. He's happy to buy this deal at 300. So the buyer, and then we have the seller. So I'm like, okay, well, I'd rather Josh not know about that I'm making 100,000, because it doesn't matter, because the numbers make sense for Josh for 300. So what does it matter how much money I'm making? And by the way, I've heard people complain about wholesalers, like they're not leaving any meat in the bone. Do you know what I say to that when people complain about that? If the deal that you're getting from a wholesaler, there's not enough profit in it for you, this is how you fix it. Don't buy it. That's what I tell them. That's the solution. It's ridiculous. It's crazy. It's just people complaining. That's all it is. If the deal doesn't make sense for you, don't buy it. If I send you a deal and it just doesn't make sense, don't buy it. If you send someone a deal and they don't want to, it doesn't make sense for them, okay, don't buy it. It's that simple. If the numbers make sense, and great. If Josh buys this deal at 300 and he'll make $80,000 on the flip, would you be happy if you did a flip, Josh, and then you made 80,000 bucks?
Yeah, I would have no
Right?
problem.
Yeah, no problem. Does it matter how much if the wholesaler made $1 million on the deal or a dollar? Does that change your 80,000?
Nope.
Exactly. It really doesn't matter how much the wholesaler is gonna make. I've bought deals from wholesalers uh multiple times. Like it just turned a really good deal. It was an area I was looking at. It's a quick turn and burn flip, the kind of flips I
I think your mic cut out, Jared.
Jared, I can't hear you.
Oh, what about now? Can you hear me now?
Yep, there we go.
Okay,
Yes.
Yeah, we hear you.
my bad. I hit the mute button. So it shouldn't matter whether you're making 100,000 or a dollar. It really doesn't matter. And if someone gives you any pushback from buyers, like, well, you're not leaving there's enough meat in the bone for me. Oh, okay, great. My common response when anyone says this deal doesn't make sense for me, not every deal is a deal for everybody. Not every deal is a deal for everybody. Because my numbers, if I'm doing a flip, I know what my contractor is going to charge me. Josh might have different prices on his contractors. Jesus may have different prices on his contractors. Maybe Tim is going to do the work himself. So his price on the work is going to go a lot less. So he can make a lot more money than I would if I did the deal. I mean, sure, he may have to sacrifice the time and energy, but sure, but he's willing to do that, so it's no problem. So everyone's a little bit different as far as the numbers go. And if your numbers and 300,000 makes perfect sense for you to do this deal as the buyer, then it doesn't matter what anything else. So as people are if that ever happens, I'm kind of went on a tangent on that, but this is a perfect place to talk about it. It doesn't matter how much money the wholesaler's making or how much money you're making, as long as it's worth it for you, obviously. But as far as the buyer's concerned, it doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter either, nor to the seller, because they're happy. They agreed to the 200,000. They're ready to go. So double close. Any questions so far about that? I know we're in tangents, but we'll talk about double close in a second. Clear as mud. Hopefully, I'm still not being. My internet says I'm unstable, so I don't know what's going on with that. But hopefully I'm coming through clear. All right. So a double close is I have a rep C, right? And then I'm going to do a double close. So I'm actually going to the day of closing. So closing day. I don't know why I keep on. Why is it? Anyways, if I try to go really detailed in it, like writing, it gets weird. Okay, I'm gonna stop writing. So double close. So closing day, I'm going to close on this property and spend 200,000. So we're gonna close on this property, right? Because we have the REPC with the seller. Oh my gosh, REPC. This is you guys what I'm talking about, right? Just because it doesn't make any sense on here. There we go. Okay. So I have the REPC with the seller. So we close on it. Done. Instead of an assignment agreement with the buyer, I do another REPC with the end buyer, because now on title, now it's writing on title, my company is actually on title because there's a chain of title. So it shows that on this date, we bought this property. Now the same day, I sell it to Josh, the end buyer, for 300. So we buy it at 200. That same day, we close at 300. Now, there's pros and cons to this. One on doing a double close. One pro is that the seller doesn't have to agree on an assignment. And another thing is the buyer it's not going to know how much you're making on this deal because it doesn't matter. But just to avoid people getting hurt feelings, people are weird sometimes, right? Like for me, if I'm buying the deal from a wholesaler and you're making 300,000, I'm happy because I'm going to make my 80. Like, dude, you made 300. Good job, high five. I mean, that's just how I see things. Like, that's awesome. I'm still happy with my 80 because that's why I remember my numbers. That's great. Cool. You made 300. Awesome. You made 100. Cool. But not everyone has the same mindset. They're like, oh, it's not fit. Whatever. People are going to have their own mindset, and that's okay. The con is it's going to cost it's with two closings. So you have a closing when you buy it and two closings when you sell it. So that doubles the closing cost. So that's going to cost additional like 1% per transaction per se, right? So that's gonna be another $3,000 to $5,000 extra that you didn't have kind of planned that you have to come up with the cost on. Now, a lot of times you can have the buyer take care of your costs, but most of the time when you're buying the first time, that you're covering that cost. So it's going to cost an extra $2-3 grand. That's why I'd only consider doing a double closing if like the wholesale fee was just astronomical, and so it didn't matter. Like if I'm making 100,000 and I had to spend an extra $2 grand on it, like okay, whatever, that's fine. Does that make sense? Now, the one challenge with this whole process is if you're doing double close when the assignment, there's no double close because you're just sending the rep C and assignment and then sending it to the company. done, easy peasy. But with double close in Utah, let me go back into the different states. Different states, they will allow, so the buyer's coming up with 300,000, right? They will allow the buyer's money to purchase this property, use the 200,000. So the one set of money does the transaction on the purchase and on the repurchase. So I only need to get the buyer to bring in 300,000, and that works for the 200,000 to buy, and then his end buying pays me out. In most states, that's fine. In Utah, you can't do that. You need two sets of money. So I need my 200,000, and then the buyer would need their 300,000 if that's the case, and I'm making the difference. So there are plenty of like hard money. There's investors that they'll lend you like for a day. They know they understand it's a close. They're gonna want to see the
Jared, can't hear you again.
It looks frozen to me.
that's crazy. Oh, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay.
And now,
Yes and no. Is it a little spotty? What part?
You cut off at the hard money lender knows that it's a double close.
Okay. So the hard money lender knows it's double close, and they'll typically charge 1% to 3% of whatever money that they're giving you. And 3% is really high, so you can find someone that's going to do it for 1.1% or 1.5. You can find someone to do that. Like that's kind of crazy that expensive. Maybe 2% like the most I would ever pay on a double close if it was a really profitable deal. So on a double close here in Utah, you're paying the additional closing cost, and you're paying the percentage to get the money for the hard money lender to lend you that money for a day. If you have a private money investor, probably do a lot cheaper. Okay, because for a private money investor, that's not really like isn't like their career or business, and they got 200,000, and they just want to sit on it, and then they're going to make like 1,000, 2,000 bucks on it. Like, this is awesome, sweet. Count me in, no problem. Does that make sense? Any questions about double closes or like the assignment? I know my drawing is like gibberish, but hopefully you're picking up what I'm putting down.
Yeah. How often on that double close? Because as the wholesaler, you're required to essentially, let's say, buy the house.
Mm-hmm.
So you bought the house, and then all of a sudden the end buyer goes, I'm out.
Well, they would and that's a possibility. That has never happened. I mean, I rarely do double closes in general, right? Even I'm making 30, 40 grand on a wholesale assignment fee. Like I'll just do the assignment because it's easier and it's less expensive, but I mean, it is possible that the seller can like the last second say, "Oh, I'm out. Sorry. I cancel the contract or not cancel the contract, but I'm not going to do it. My buyers, and it may happen sometimes. Like maybe they had money lined up, and then the money person got scared or whatever, and then they back out, and so now they're like, crap, dude, I can't close on this deal. So in the initial rep C, you would have them put down. Oh, that's something else I didn't even mention, which I'm okay. I'm glad you asked that question. I would. It's earnest money. So the earnest money, and typically for something like this, I'd probably put like 10K or 5K minimum. So 5K minimum is what I would put it, but for a deal like this is 10 to 5K, right? If at that point, let's just say that does happen. The guy the funds didn't happen for whatever reason. They backed out and they couldn't do it. So that if my earnest money, if I'm doing double close, I'm definitely gonna want more earnest money than I would as just an assignment. Is that 10,000 bucks? Like, okay, well, you're not getting, because I still have to pay the hard money lender. I still have to, all of this stuff's going to happen. So that 10,000 stays, and that most is going to kind of go for the cost of everything. So if that's the case, and usually you will know that same day, so you can either like cancel the sell just in general before the hard money actually sends the info in. Like the only reason why it would be like where you actually did have to buy it, is because you have, once it's closed, you have 3 business days to actually fund. So if they signed the paperwork and documents and then they didn't fund within those 3 days, like said, hey, my lender guy's coming, he's just transferring stuff over, it's the weekend, whatever, and so that's where you may be a little bit kind of stuck. But if it's like usually that day they'll know if they're not going to be able to close because the hard money guy disappeared or whatever the reason is, right? So you're going to keep that 10,000, and communication's key. You're talking to the hard money lender. Hey, listen, this is what happened. The guy just backed out. Here's all the paperwork. Here's what we're gonna do. I'm still gonna throw this out. So, um, and usually with this type of loan, like the if it's someone that does it like on the regular, like a hard money lender, like they lend on double closing funds, they'll have contingency in case the buyer doesn't buy. So like, okay, great.
I think you cut out again.
Yeah, he messed up because now he's frozen too.
If it's a good deal, you, oh, my internet's going in and out. Typically, if it's a good deal, you find the buyer may take an extra week or so.
Gotcha, that makes sense. Easy
But
enough.
for the most part, in the assignment, if it's an assignment agreement where there's no double close, I still ask for a non-refundable. Come on, it was working for a second ago. Non-refundable earnest money as part of the assignment agreement of minimum 5K. And I don't think I ever had any. Well, no, it's not true. Like one time I had someone that put in the non-refundable, and they couldn't perform. But every other time, the 99.9% of the times, if they put in the 5K there or whatever the earnest money is, they usually perform. And the reason why I suggest everyone here, if you're wholesaling, everyone require a non-refundable earnest money to the buyer. That's very key. Whether you're doing a double close, whether you're just doing an assignment, it doesn't matter. Always, always, always ask for a non-refundable. And the reason why, one, if they're serious, if they're going to close on this deal, then you need to make sure that they're serious, right? Like, yeah, this deal seems great, ready to do it, which means that their due diligence time needs to be done before the offer is accepted, before they send in the earnest money. This is not, and this is where it's like when I'm talking to people that have never bought a deal from a wholesaler, I make sure they understand this and have that conversation with them that the earnest money is this is like non-refundable. And this is industry standard. There's not like uh it's not like it's just how Jared does it, or this is standard across the board for most 99.9% of wholesalers will ask for non-refundable. Because let's just say that we're in a situation where Jason's going to buy my deal, okay, and the seller, he's about to go to foreclosure, so we got to close within those 2 weeks, and for whatever reason, I didn't require him to do the earnest money, and maybe it cost me money to find that deal. Maybe I had to put in ads, or even more expensive, my time. I had to make 500 phone calls to get that one deal. And Jason, for whatever reason, he couldn't perform. He got cold feet. His money backed out. Whatever reason that is, if he can't perform, then I'm stuck as the buyer. Like, oh crap! Now I need to find another buyer. And if it's like 2 days before the closing, it's gonna be hard. And especially a lot of times, if it does happen, you can get an extension.
I think you cut out again, Jared.
But a lot of times they don't have the option to wait an extra week because maybe the seller is like going through foreclosure, or there's a reason why they're selling at a discount because guess what, they're about to lose their home, they're in bankruptcy, they're divorced, they need to get rid of this thing, they don't have the time to extend. And so that's why it's important to get the non-refundable. For one, it gives you at least you walk away with something, right? One of my first like top, not top, one of my first deals, I wasn't requiring earnest money. There's one guy's, there's this deal. It was in Magda, we're wholesaling, and or that was wholesaling. And this guy, he was am I blank for a second? Yeah, okay. So this guy's like, yeah, I want the deal. Tell everyone because it was a good deal. Tell everyone that is taken. I want it. I got it. And I was like, okay, cool. I took what he said at face value. I sent him the assignment agreement, all that stuff. Like, and I was like, yeah, you got to put in earnest money too. But I wasn't like forceful on it. I wasn't requiring it really. And it was, I think we were closing like 10 days later when he finally said he wanted it. And he spent like a week and it was like back and forth. And I was like, dude, you haven't signed the assignment agreement. I need you to sign it. And I've already told people that this deal's already been taken. And so people were asking about it because it was a really good deal. And I was like, yeah, sorry, no, I got a buyer. Don't worry about it. It's good. And so everyone was like really asking, like, or I told everyone the deal's gone. And this guy kept on one excuse after another. Oh yeah, I sent over my partner, blah blah blah, or slow to respond, a whole thing. And then like 3 days before closing, he's like, we're not gonna be able to do it. Like, well, then you need to send me the earnest money then. Like, well, no, we didn't sign anything, so we're not gonna do it. And so I got screwed like 3 days before the closing. They just backed out. Fortunately enough, it was a good enough deal. I was able to find another buyer. And so the seller and we didn't get messed up on it, but that was a very good lesson for me that until all the paperwork signed and the earnest money is in hand or like in title, then the non-refundable earnest money is in title. The deal is still available for anybody. So if Bryce, you're looking for if you're going to buy one of my deals, example, or anyone, right? I tell them like, so great, I'm going to take your offer, but just so you know, if someone comes in and if you don't sign this and send the earnest money by this time, the deal's available for anybody who wants to come in. I'm not holding it for you. So if you're still good because you gave me a verbal offer, if you're still good on this offer at 300,000, the deal's yours. But by the end of the day, I need you to sign this paperwork and then deposit the non-refundable earnest money into it. I don't have multiple people sending me non-refundable earnest money, right? I usually give them at least, some time to actually do it. So I'm not like sending it out. But if someone's asking about the deal, I'll tell them like, yeah, I got a guy, he's supposedly sending the earnest money. So if he doesn't, the deal will be available and I'll let you know what happens. So that way it's like, so always require, especially for wholesaling guys, internet. Always require earnest money. I think it may have went out. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. Okay. What questions do you guys have about the wholesale process in general? No other questions? Clear as mud. Was this helpful? I'm assuming.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah,
Okay.
very helpful. I do have a question, and maybe it's silly, but when you have the earnest money, do you hold on to that for your closing costs, or does it go to the title? Where does that go?
So it should go to title. That's the
Okay.
safest place to put it. I have some relationships with buyers. They would just send it to me directly, and then and I just make sure title knows. But let's just say if I'm wholesaling it at the total price, including my fee, is 310, and the non-refundable money is 5,000. That 5,000 would go towards the purchase too, just like any other earnest money scenario. But for you guys, I would definitely recommend have them send it to title so there's receipt. it's out of your hands. There's not, I mean, for whatever reason, you know, you want to make sure that there's a paper trail and that there can't be anything happen till the closing happens, right?
Right. Okay.
And if they don't perform, well, you still have your assignment agreement that's non-refundable, so that just money goes to you, and the title company will send it over your way, easy peasy, right?
Thank you.
Yeah, great question. Perfect. All
So
right.
Jared, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead, Marjorie.
So with me being like a super newbie,
Mm-hmm.
let's say I find something or whatever. I
Yes.
literally have not done anything to do with any kind of real estate since we bought our house in 2011.
Yeah.
So like, let's say you find some deal and you're like wanting to fill out the Rep C, but you don't have like, because I don't have an LLC right now.
Sure.
What's the best way to go about that? Like, obviously you and other people are very more knowledgeable than I am on that kind of stuff. Would you like
Mm-hmm.
kind of reach out to somebody more knowledgeable to fill that out? Or
Right.
would you put your name in there? How would you deal with that?
There's pros and cons for that too, right? So I mean, if it's wholesale and you're not doing double close, like when I first started out, so I'm not giving necessarily legal advice here when I'm talking about stuff like this, but I'll tell you what I did. I just put my name in there because before I didn't have an LLC, and in fact my the attorney, the real estate attorney that I talked to says that he wouldn't, which is kind of crazy to think because it wasn't necessarily in his best interest to tell me that because he wasn't going to make a fee right away for me, which made me trust him more. So
Hear you again.
You froze there, Jared.
everybody still
We can hear you now. It's good.
okay. Okay. So I would just do it my own personal name if providing we're not doing a double close, just a traditional assignment, because in title it never actually gets transferred into my name. So I would never actually own the property because I'm just assigning the contract to someone else until I started making money and then getting an LLC set up. That's what I did my first couple transactions until I started making money. Then I had an attorney drop an LLC for me and all that stuff. So yeah, you can always partner with other people, like you were mentioning. That's not necessarily a bad idea either. So kind of whatever your comfort level is, that's totally fine, right? So yeah, I just did it in my own personal name because it never actually closed in my name, so it didn't really matter. And I knew I can cancel the contract anyway, so it was again, there's pros and cons to everything, right? But for me, I wasn't too worried about it at the time because I knew I can cancel it because it was, you know, I made sure that due diligence was way out there. Um, I was able to count the contract if nothing. So I was always get my earnest money back from the seller, so on. So yeah, that's what I would recommend, or not recommend. I'm not recommending. That's what I did. Is I just put it in my own name until I started making money, then created LLC, then I just put an LLC's name for the contract.
Okay.
Does that help, Marjorie? I hope.
That does. Thank you.
Okay. Because I would before you start spending all the money on stuff, like it's a good idea to start making money, you know,
For sure.
and then go from there. Okay, awesome, guys. Well, we're past 12 o'clock, so we're gonna wrap this up. But if you have any more questions, just put in the community chat about what we talked about. Uh, this is exciting stuff. Love it. Okay, guys, sweet. In Clearfield, by the way, I am doing the Renatus presentation. If you guys ever want to come, check it out. It's in the back office with Tamara Wright. It's in the calendar, but it's in Clearfield. So anybody out there in that area, if you want to come hang out for a couple hours with me, feel free. But okay, awesome, guys. I appreciate it, and yeah, let's keep taking action, guys. Love it.
Thanks, Jared.
See you guys.
Thanks,
Love you all.
Jared.